Welcome back to my channel. It is Krista here to do the weekly reading for the sign of Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. If you don't know your Moon and Rising sign, Sagittarius, there's a link in the description box where you can find your whole birth chart. And that way, for additional information for the week, you can always look at your Moon and Rising sign readings on top of your Sun sign reading today. So this is for Sagittarius for the week of August 15th to August 22nd. I'll be using the Wisdom of the Oracle Tarot for a 5-card spread today, and then as always drawing additional message cards from each of the Medicine Card Tarot and the Healing with the Angels Tarot. I'll be asking, what does your sign need to know? So whatever is most prominent in your life, I'll encourage you to apply these messages to, and hopefully you find them helpful and healing. So what does Sagittarius need to know? All right, so we're just looking for 2 more jumper cards. All right, we just need that last jumper card here, Sagittarius, and then I'll get a bird's eye view of what's going on with regard to all 5 cards together. Then we will look at each card in its distinct position, and then I'll hold the cards up to the camera so you get a better feel of what's going on in the card. And certainly if there's any color or imagery that appeals to you or speaks to you intuitively, you can feel free to go ahead and use that to your advantage as well. Okay, so we have your 5 cards here. Just want to make sure that they're cool. Okay, if I remember correctly, I believe you had the No Place Like Home either in your last week's reading or the week prior to that. It could have been a leg up, but something really homey, something really supportive. So general snapshot here, Sagittarius, you're feeling really well taken care of. If you're not, for whatever reason, it might be a good week to count your blessings. There is a lot of support in your life. You feel really secure, even calm because of your atmosphere. It seems like things having to do with the home are pretty situated. So you also have an activity or an action that is available to you this week that could improve things. But I think you have to become aware of it. You may not be taking or seeing opportunities that are available to you. And we're looking at issues of comfort, nirvana, humility, and using the imagination process toward your higher self or to your higher consciousness, or even on the imagination level where you begin to dream, where you begin to imagine a different life, a different world, a different belief system, etc. So let's look at what each card is in each position. The No Place Like Home card represents you. It's in the central position this week, and this is why I said that no matter what's going on the outside here on the periphery, you probably do feel pretty settled, pretty situated, pretty taken care of. It looks like all your home ducks are in a row, or relationship ducks are in a row, family, etc. If something is a little bit off, there could be a need to act or react to the situation with humility this week, but it's going to be situated quickly. And just by that, I mean, it'll be taken care of. It'll be, one of those don't mention it, forget all about it situations. So if there is anything outstanding where you feel that a conversation needs to be had, or you need to get a point across, or you need to relate to somebody, a really good way to do that this week is to be a little bit humble about it and maybe just bring it up in a curious sense. The conversation could sound something like, I remember when you said, or when you mentioned, or I was thinking about what you said, and I'm curious to learn more about it, or I'm surprised I reacted in a certain way to it. I'm curious to learn why that was, or I'm curious to learn where you got this information. So as long as you go about something this week that is intriguing you, or you want to get to the bottom of something, or to reach some level of sort of nirvana around all elements of your life this week, it could be done just through a simple conversation and through being humble through that process, Sagittarius. So that is your central card position. In the energy that you're just leaving or bringing into the week is Milk and Honey. This is their Nirvana card. It's really beautiful. We've got rainbow in it. We've got, full jars of milk and honey. There is this sense of, like I said, total fulfillment here, feeling like you're in alignment with something that's working for you. However, it could become static, or it could become what is known as a rut. So there are options available to you, as I mentioned at the beginning, that for some reason you may be overlooking, or you may not want to contemplate, certainly even take action on this week. If it has to do with a conversation where you need to be a little bit humble within it, or the conversation itself calls for humility on both sides, you could be avoiding that, and that could be a long-term letdown, because, like I said, something could be situated really easily, probably permanently, if both parties or both agencies or actors or whoever's engaged in this process here just sort of sat down with an element of respect and curiosity. And I'm speaking now about the Clean It Up card in your what is working for you. Like I said, you could be very well going out and doing this, and this is just confirmation that it's going to be helpful, and it will tie up any loose ends, or it will help get to the bottom of stress in a relationship or a misunderstanding, for example. On the other hand, you may not understand that it's your part as well as the other person's part to do this together, right? I think you have to be pretty honest with yourself about this level of humility here. And I think that there is a really important aspect as well of mutual or shared respect here. And I'm going to go so far as to say, especially if the other person or persons or agent, etc., doesn't have the same lifestyle as you or the same comforts as you, there could be a great deal of judgment going on here. That's really what I'm trying to get at here. It could be from both sides, absolutely. If it is, of course, both sides do need to come together with mutual respect and humility. On the other hand, this other person could be just waiting or available or eager or curious, and they're just sort of waiting for you to come to them. I think if we can leave judgment out of this conversation, or we can spend more time loving versus judging, you can't do both at once, right? So maybe there's a little bit of, you can give a little bit more this week, and it could just be kindness. It's not going to be like you have to break the bank to do this. That's not what I mean. I just mean maybe be a little bit kinder than you normally are. Maybe try to understand someone else's position or why they do something, especially if it's different than what you're doing, and really resist over judgment this week. Of course, we all judge, and it's normal. There's compartmentalization. We have to know what's dangerous, what isn't, what's healthy, what isn't. You know, we judge accordingly to our safety and to our prospects, but it can bleed into the way that we love another person, the way that we respect another person. And that's when judgment gets tricky. That's when we're not talking about love. We're talking or making it more important to love somebody or to respect somebody. We're making it more important to judge somebody. So just some terms to contemplate this week. Certainly, Sagittarius, if this is being projected into your life this week, don't stand for it. Really get to the bottom of why you're being judged, for example. Of course, you want to do this through respect and humility too. It could even be important this week in general or during this conversation, if you will, to try to keep humorous about it. Try to keep an open mind, just so that the judgment doesn't overweigh or offset the sense of respect and humility. Okay, in the card, the yang, which is in the position, what you may not realize is available to you, is outright action. It is being a pioneer. It's taking the first step. So this is where I mentioned at the very start that you may be under some impression. It appears here as though it's a teeny bit erroneous, but you may be under an impression that if no one else brings something up with you, then everything's tickety-boo and there's no problem. For whatever reason, this person is willing to meet you, or those agents or persons are willing to meet you in the middle, but they really need you to come to terms with that conversation or what needs to be shared here. So you do have an opportunity this week to get to the bottom of something. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be like, no problem, man, shake on it, let's move on. I really feel like whatever is quote unquote wrong or upsetting or up in the air or frustrating for you or, causing over judgment could be completely relieved by having a generous and loving conversation. It could be you even sending a note to somebody. It could even be you saying, like I mentioned at the start, it could be, I know there's not a lot of time, but I just want you to know I've been thinking about this. Maybe we could get together sometime. Just being open, being sincere, little bit of humility here, and I think everything will be smoothed over pretty quickly. Because you're already sitting pretty, right, Sagittarius? I mean, you're already in a really comfortable position and in a situation. So it's really not going to behoove you or be very attractive on any level to go around judging people from, your throne, so to speak, or from your prosperity or from your sense of comfort. It's really a time to share that. So just keep an open mind around that this week. And with your probable outcome card being the Imagine card, this is where with regard to all the cards combined and the position it's in, this is where I feel like if the conversation isn't had or if this isn't situated or taken to task or solved this week, that your imagination can run away with you with regard to this issue, and it could even add to problems. On the other hand, you could say, I know that an action needs to be taken, but I'm going to imagine some scenarios here. I'm going to imagine some outcomes or some framework by which we can have this conversation or by which we can work together towards something here. So you can use your imagination as your best friend this week. Just be sure that you're not letting your imagination run away with you with regard to creating scenarios that aren't going to exist in the first place, thereby adding lots of layers that don't even exist in reality to what's going on here. Make sure you're using your imagination to your highest good and to positive outcomes. Just because I feel right now that you could really talk yourself into or out of anything this week. So I think one of the main motivators behind this conversation or this person or this concept here is to really recognize how important it is to you. You really just need to come to terms with, is this really important, or can I let it go? And if it falls apart, it falls apart. That's fine. Or if it is really important to you, maybe it's time to share the wealth. Really try to see eye to eye with somebody that you already probably respect, and who probably already respects you. And use your imagination to the highest good here. Really prepare for something that's ultra positive and be willing to take the first step. So here is your No Place Like Home card. This is so gorgeous. You're even kind of in this home suspended. So you might even be, like I mentioned, a little bit in a rut with a belief system, ideology, even a lifestyle, but it's so comfortable, right? So again, I'm not coming from a place of judgment, but I'm just coming from a place of maybe it's time to share this or try to acknowledge that not everyone gets to live this way, or not everyone is really peaceful at home and feeling, calm and comfortable there. Maybe it's just time to put on lenses this week that help you appreciate what other people could be going through, or alternately where you've come from. Not so that you go driving through the week looking at your rear view mirror, but that you get a different perspective on other people's lives or decision making, and let it be. Let it be sans judgment. Here we have the milk and honey, like I said, and energy that you're bringing into the week. This is just a beautiful card. This is really all about fulfillment, wish fulfillment, nirvana in every sense. You're feeling really secure, really calm, really supported. So this type of humility, this type of getting to the bottom of something, or getting rid of something that isn't working for you anymore in order to make room for something that does work for you, you could be easily resisting this, and I totally understand why. I mean, no one wants to upset the apple cart when everything's going so smoothly and so seamlessly here. But it's irking you, right? It's agitating you. And if it isn't, fine. Maybe it's something that's going on internally within your, your mental space, your emotional space, or your psychological, or even spiritual world. If that's the case, it's still important to say, I am going to look at this intellectually, honestly, even if I don't like what I find at the end, or even if what I find at the end isn't what I expected to, or even if it upsets some part of my comfort here. I think you really need to make a decision around intellectual honesty versus, creature comfort here, because it's more important to be to have knowledge about why you do things or don't do things, and maybe even perhaps more importantly this week, why other people do or don't do certain things that you judge them for, maybe even unfairly. And in the what you may not be aware of card here is the Yang. Like I mentioned, this is the action card. This is all about being the first person to do something, taking the bull by the horns, so to speak. So yeah, the power is in your hands to get to the bottom of something here. Like I said, I think you have to really discover your values this week in terms of what's more important to you, creature comforts or intellectual honesty. We have Imagine is your probable outcome card. This is where, like I said, you can do yourself a great deal of favor or a great deal of letdown just by how you're using the imagination process. You can imagine the best for yourself, or you can imagine the worst. And like I've been saying for other signs this week, there is an element of both of them being exactly right. Like in a non-judging universe, everything just is. So we're looking at issues that just are, but what would you like them to be? So I would really play around with these two avenues this week, Sagittarius, both the taking action towards something and what you're imagining outcomes will be like, or what you're imagining the worst or the best case scenario will be, and really discover how you feel about those. I mean, your thoughts and beliefs will inevitably create feelings in you. So really just, if you want to, or if you have time, or if you're curious, maybe just sort of play around with those concepts this week. How do you feel after you imagine having that conversation or coming to terms with something, or this person not being receptive or whatever in terms of that conversation. You can, like I said, you can imagine total wellness, you can imagine things falling apart. So just be aware that you're using this to everyone's highest good here. In the Buffalo card, we have prayers and abundance. And this is really what I'm seeing, especially between the milk and the honey and the no place like home cards. You can even state, for example, that the no place like home is a lot like the prayer, and the abundance is the milk and honey. So this is just doubling up on these two themes here. Like I said, you might be so comfortable and so content, you're not willing to stretch, you're not willing to learn, you're not willing to understand. It's just easier to judge. It's easier to imagine worst case scenarios. Upsetting anything in your life is going to cause changes, and who has time for that? So, I mean, these could actually be going through your mind this week. On the other hand, if you're thinking higher consciousness, you might even be excited by this, and I hope that's the case, Sagittarius. I hope you're excited by an opportunity to stretch, you know, your worldview and to question belief systems, right? Or question attitudes and behaviors and that type of thing. And maybe that's what's going on. You're just coming to terms with having everything you need right now and feeling really confident. And then sort of once you have your footing, or once you know, this is what's going on, once you feel that this is what's going on, you can take that next step. And your final card for the reading is divine timing. This is just really saying that everything is happening exactly the way it should be. There's really no rush here. I wouldn't let any form of, you know, guilt or, you know, upset really play a part in this. That's not what it's about. It's not about guilt. It's not about feeling bad in any way. Just remember that the time is right this week to get to the bottom of something, or to have a conversation, or to contemplate the way other people live their lives without judgment. So that concludes your reading. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have a second, let me know in the comments how this works out for you. And if you aren't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel, because I upload videos every week for your sign. So until we meet next time, take good care. Bye for now.